Hello there and a very warm welcome. I am Molly Gambhir. You are watching India Prime on WION, the only Indian channel that brings you a global perspective and top stories from South Asia. On tonight's show, we discuss a curious case of the two Sufi clerics from New Delhi's Nizamuddin Dargah who disappeared mysteriously on their visit to Pakistan, resurfaced equally mysteriously and are now back in the country. We remind our viewers that this story was first broken on WION and we have been following this entire story ever since. Now, even given the fact that the clerics have returned home safe, the incident has left a trail of questions. Most importantly, is this a case of Pakistan's persecution complex? What exactly is the source of the intelligence that the country acted upon while detaining the two clerics for questioning? And from the Indian point of view, what are the clerics not talking about and not revealing? Is there more to the story than what is already known? Now, one of the clerics, Nazim Ali Nizami, said this in an interview that they have not been detained by the intelligence. But later, his son, in an interview to WION, said they were indeed detained. And he referred to a newspaper report. This is that interaction.
We have the cleric's son with us who says that this newspaper called the Ummat, which the cleric was talking about earlier, which is spreading the message of hatred and also possible links of why they got abducted. Let's understand from you, what is the significance of this newspaper and why was this brought into picture? इस पेपर के बारे में क्यों बात हो रही है, क्या है इसमें ऐसा?
इस पेपर में उनके खिलाफ ही लिखा हुआ है जो इनको डिटेन करा था कि ये यहाँ पे पाकिस्तान में आके इंडियन इंटेलिजेंस के लिए काम करते हैं। इस बेस के ऊपर जो है इनको वहाँ पे जो है रोका गया था पूछताछ के लिए।
ये कहाँ का पेपर है? ये
लाहौर से निकलता है, पाकिस्तान से। पेपर जो है उम्मत पेपर है।
और इसमें एग्जैक्टली लिखा क्या है, हमें बताएंगे?
इसमें ये लिखा है दरगाह हज़रत निज़ामुद्दौला के सज्जादा नशीन जो है रॉ के जरिए वहाँ के जो एक MQM वहाँ की सियासी पार्टी है तो उनसे टच में रहते थे और रॉ के लिए काम करते थे।
तो इसकी वजह से उनको अगवा कर लिया गया?
नहीं, हाँ, इसी वजह उनसे पूछताछ के लिए उनको उठाया।
और ये So this is what they say, that they thought this newspaper that is published in Lahore, they thought that this newspaper has been spreading the message which says that these two clerics traveling from India were actually raw agents, and basis on that they were abducted by the intelligence agencies for some consultation. This is Jessica Taneja for WION in New Delhi.
Now, why don't we break this down for you and get you the larger picture? We're now joined in by WION Studios with Mr. Shiv Shankar Mukherjee, former Indian diplomat. We also will be joined in just a short bit by our Pakistan Bureau Chief, Taha Siddiqui. Remember, WION has been getting you both sides of this story with constant reportage coming in from both India and Pakistan. Sir, if I can come to you on this, do you see this as unusual intelligence accusation, the kind of basis that's been made that this was intelligence, that these individuals actually had relations with the Indian Research and Analysis Wing, for example? What do you make of these allegations?
Well, going by the reports I've seen today, look, at the present moment, I think we have not too many facts and a whole lot of speculation. And given the state of hostility between India and Pakistan, given I speak as an Indian diplomat, given the existential paranoia that governs Pakistan's deep state, which actually totally controls policy towards India, which is the army and its and the inter-services intelligence, the ISI. You know, one can speculate and imagine just about anything is possible, no matter how far-fetched it is. Firstly, even the electronic and print media reports seem to be confusing. The testimony, what has been revealed by the two clerics themselves, and the son who was interviewed just now, itself seems to be very confusing. From the reports, they were picked up by people they were picked up in Lahore airport. Obviously, that has to be state agents. Outsiders cannot just pick up people. They were supposed to have been in, Pakistan is saying they have been supposed to be incommunicado because of no signals in Sindh. One of them says that this is rubbish because we did not have visas for Sindh, for Karachi. On the other hand, it is said that the person, the 82-year-old cleric, who's the head of the Dargah, the Nizamuddin Dargah, was in fact in Pakistan to see his sister in Karachi. So there's a lot of conflicting, conflicts in the testimonies that have come out and the speculation that is going on. Frankly, to me, the main facts are that they were there. They were out of communication of their relatives and so on for some time, for 3 or 4 days. Alarm bells rang out. Our foreign minister took it up with the advisor to the Prime Minister, Sartaj Aziz, in Pakistan, who offered his help, and now, hey presto, they were located with an explanation that they were simply out of telephonic contact, satellite contact, and they are now back. What exactly happened, I don't know. The only speculation that, and I repeat, it is speculation that I'm willing to make, is that it is perfectly possible for me to imagine that based on that newspaper report, which itself, by the way, could have been contrived. It need not be a newspaper report based on any proper source. These things are done that way. They were picked up, they were interrogated or whatever, and then because of the high-level intercession by our external affairs minister, it was decided to just send them back and make and put a spin upon it that it was a very harmless kind of event.
Yes.
As I said, the last part is speculation. Even if you assume the worst and that this is the deep state trying to do something nasty with 2 Indian visitors, I think even in their most paranoid moments, they'd find it hard to communicate to the world, as they have done in the past when people have strayed across the border,
right,
that these were nasty ISI agents. An 82-year-old man who for a long, long time has been the head of a dargah and his near 70-year-old companion.
Yes.
So I think the final comment I have is, your report also mentioned that even their own statements seem to be conflicting, and in fact that they are reluctant to talk too much about what exactly happened to them in Pakistan. And I don't know, old people like that who've been picked up, who may have been harassed, who may have faced, the kind of situation that we can only speculate about. They are scared, they may have been warned, they may have been, they have relatives in Pakistan. Here again, we are going off on a speculative tangent.
Yes.
So we need more facts.
But unfortunately, there is a very strong speculative tangent here because there are very few facts which have been made available. Taha, our Pakistan bureau chief, is now also joining us. Taha Siddiqui, remember, has been getting us the latest from Islamabad. Taha, if I can come to you on this, the mystery still holds true. Where did this angle of Indian intelligence really come in from? And if you can shed more light on what Pakistani agencies have been telling you all throughout.
Well, as far as this sort of story that came out in the Daily Ummah is concerned, it came out a day after they disappeared, and then basically it said that these 2 individuals had suspicious movements in the country, and they were not going to the areas that they were authorized to go to, and then also said that the exact wording was that their links to RAW, which is like the intelligence agency of India, cannot be ruled out. So all of that was basically was a ground that was prepared, that we saw before they were sort of they came back, they surfaced again. And then while we were talking to them, their family members, when they were missing, we do know that they had told us about how one of them was detained in Lahore airport before boarding the plane, and then when they landed the Karachi airport, one of them did not ever come out. So at that time, I spoke to some sources in their high-level sources in the police, in the Punjab police, and they told me that although they did not know why these people were detained, but they were definitely detained by agencies linked with the Pakistan army. So this is what I got to know through my sources. Later on, when they were recovered on Saturday, when they surfaced again, at that time the local media here started running a news with regards to them, saying that they had gone to interior Sindh and they had no network coverage. And this information was coming not through the family or not through the individuals themselves, but through unnamed sources. And usually unnamed sources in Pakistan means that it's the intelligence feeding the media to sort of narrate a particular story according to what they want. And then later on, when I spoke to the family, they sort of regurgitated the same and repeated the same sort of tale that the local media had already set for them. So in that sense, definitely, I mean, from what I know from the sources on ground, from what I know from talking to the families in India and then talking to the families in Karachi where they have relatives, it seemed like they were definitely taken away and then later on released. But because of the fact that it became an embarrassment internationally and there was a lot of pressure, the aspect of them being detained by intelligence agencies has not been made public.
Right, Taha, I'll also bring you in on this aspect, but sir, if I can come to you on this, Mr. Mukherjee, even if they were supposed to be with the Indian intelligence, if indeed this claim was found to be true, they would not have been allowed to leave Pakistan. So do you see this now as a knee-jerk reaction, as a cover-up of sorts?
Well, I agree with your correspondent from Pakistan almost completely that what probably happened, and you know, given the history of our relationship and given the history of the Pakistani deep state, what he said about unnamed sources in the press are intelligence leaks is absolutely true. We all know that.
Yes.
B, what he said about picking them up, that the fact they were detained, this whole story about there being out of communications in Sindh and so on and so forth in an area where communication signals were not being received is all hogwash. They were detained. That much I think we can safely assume. And I would agree with your correspondent that they were released because it was, you know, whatever level this decision was taken to pick them up, for whatever, you know, reason they had, and paranoia leads to all sorts of, you know, in the past we've had any number of examples of all sorts of things being done on the basis of a, you know, the obsessional hostility about needling India. And when it turns out, perhaps in their, you know, as matters unfolded, that this whole thing was becoming extremely embarrassing, that it was being taken up by India by a very active external affairs minister at her level, and that it would perhaps be better to, you know, make the best of a bad job, let them go, and put out a harmless, innocuous story about their being just, you know, lost in the wilderness communication-wise.
Right, why don't we...
Again, one says that because they are back, because if there was any determination on the part of the ISI and so on to use this for some kind of propaganda blast and so on, I think, you know, the age and the background of the two travelers would, I think, have finally sunk home.
Right, Mr. Mukherjee, just taking a cue from what you mentioned here, Taha, also bring us up to speed with this publication, Ummat. How credible is this? How well acknowledged is this publication on ground in Pakistan? Because I have in front of me the translation of that article, and I'll just get our viewers up to speed with that as well in a bit. But help us understand what this publication really is all about.
Well, Daily Ummat is a very well-known Urdu newspaper in the city of Karachi. It's published out of Karachi, and it has a large readership amongst the Urdu population of the country, and specifically in Karachi. And it basically, the history behind the paper is that it's known to be used as a propaganda tool with different stories that seem to be planted over it, and usually it's used as a political intervention tool in the city of Karachi. For example, a lot of stories in recent times, if you observe the newspaper, have been, for example, against the MQM. And also this article also mentions the fact that MQM, there were links of these people with MQM, and MQM right now is sort of under heated under by the Pakistani authorities, and is being accused of being involved in anti-state activities. So we see a lot of these planted stories in this newspaper. As far as the credibility is concerned, amongst people who are well-read and understand the news media, they know that the credibility of this paper does not really exist, but it's quite popular amongst the common people. And we know in Pakistan, media is managed by the Pakistani state at different levels. Print media is managed, the mainstream media is managed, and even now we do know that they're trying to manage the social media through different laws. So this is one of those, it could be, we could safely say that, and sort of from what I know and from what I talk to people in Karachi, or people from the journalism background and people from the industry, we can safely assume that this newspaper is one of the tools that the Pakistani state uses whenever it wants to do a certain sort of propaganda.
All right, stay with us, Taha. Mr. Mukherjee, if I can also over here have your viewpoint on this article. Now, the translation and also helping our viewers understand what this article really is all about. Quoting some excerpts from this article. Now, the two Indian clerics, the article says, who went missing from Lahore and Karachi airports are under suspicion because nobody in Lahore or Pakistan could confirm any meetings with them. That's the allegation made by this article in the Daily Ummat, which our correspondent Taha Siddiqui, as he just pointed out, is viewed as being credible on ground. Now, the management of Datta Darbar also denied any knowledge that the clerics were visiting the shrine. Mr. Mukherjee, a very interesting point made by the article here is that a security official confirmed to Ummat that links with withdrawal of some clerics at the Dargah Nizamuddin in Delhi cannot be ruled out. It may be noted that there have been reports of RAW trying to make inroads in Lines area of Karachi and some areas in Punjab. Your thoughts on this?
Well, once again, I agree totally that it is absolutely safe, and one can say this with no fear of contradiction, that this entire story is a plant. I mean, there's no journalist of, you know, with the kind of extraordinary competence that monitors every single arrival at Lahore airport and then figures out their background and the fact that they are RAW agents.
Yes.
This is a planted story by the security, by the Pakistani deep state at whatever level, maybe minor, maybe senior. Secondly, that again without fear of contradiction, one can say that therefore this is a planned thing. This was not something accidental. This was not something that somebody in the Pakistani intelligence and ISI thought up as you know, in an impromptu fashion, and you know, to make use of and so on. It was obviously planned. Why, one doesn't know, except, as I mentioned right at the beginning, in the background of their existential obsession with India, RAW, the hostility that permeates their thinking. You know, this is, I mean, they've had somebody wandering across from Iran into Baluchistan, and, you know, a former naval officer who's still there being presented as a spy, a kind of super spy from RAW and so on. And then there was that hint in the article, or perhaps an explicit mention, I believe, that these two clerics had actually gone there as agents of RAW to establish contact with the MQM, which is the political party which is,
yes,
you know, prominent in Sindh. So the story obviously is entirely concocted. The reason why these two were picked up, I would hesitate to speculate. All I know is that over 4 decades of watching Pakistan as a diplomat, they really don't need any really solid reason to get into operations where they sense even the most minute chances of embarrassing India. In this case, fortunately, these two people have not been harmed, although they do appear to be scared. And perhaps because of our External Affairs Minister's intervention, perhaps because they realized that, you know, this simply wasn't going to work, whether it was to be used for propaganda or for whatever purposes, you know, I think they just shut down that little operation of theirs.
Yes, but while we appreciate the efforts made by the Indian side itself, who of course worked against time, and the larger question being that the Indian government also has not revealed much, has not come out to state that this is exactly what happened. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, the Indian government has two sources of information on this, the people themselves and the Pakistani state. Now, they're not going to get much from the Pakistani state.
Right.
And I really don't know what, I mean, I frankly have no idea whatsoever about what these two have told our authorities on their return.
Yes.
I can only go by some of the statements that appeared on Indian television, which seem to be somewhat confused. And therefore, I think my personal opinion is that they are apprehensive. They are in a state of fear about revealing all the details in public. Maybe our authorities know. Maybe they have been more forthcoming, you know, with the officials whom they met on their return.
Yes.
But that is something I simply cannot comment about because I have no information on that.
Absolutely. And taking a cue from what you're saying, Taha, if I can bring you back here, what the clerics have also been saying is that there are forces in Pakistan trying to work against the message of peace that the clerics brought along with them. Your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, this is sort of a kind of a message from them, not very openly and clearly about the fact that they were harassed in Pakistan by authorities. And usually, when these authorities take away people, and especially those with links to India, even just having an Indian passport and roaming around in Pakistan can land you in trouble, and that has happened in the past. And then they usually harass, and they usually sort of play this good cop, bad cop sort of strategy also. And we've seen that even in my own reporting, when I go out and report, when I meet with, for example, Indian diplomats here, there's always this good cop, bad cop. One guy would always sort of play out to be the person who would be intimidating you and saying that you could land into trouble. What you're doing is, I mean, I've been told because of, just meeting with Indian diplomats for news stories reasons, for research work, for my own professional work, I've been told that, this is, you're moving into the territory of treason, sedition. So all of that harassment happens at the level of intelligence agencies. And from the looks of it, these two clerics, they want to continue coming to Pakistan. As we saw their statements today, they have family in Karachi. So they have a lot of stake in Pakistan in that sense, and they don't want to go out and all open and talk openly about what the sort of trauma they went through and the sort of ordeal they went through. And in between those lines, they are mentioning when they say things like there are people against peace, and I'm sure this was it could be one of those conversations they had with the people that were interrogating them, and the line of questioning could have been where they would have claimed to be peaceful Indian Muslims who were just visiting Pakistan, but they were accused of different things, accused of, like in the article, we saw that they were accused of having links with RAW or accused of, being in Pakistan for suspicious activities. So all of that could have resulted in such a statement.
Right. Now, for his part, the cleric has said that he will go to Pakistan again despite being unwelcome. Why don't we play out that reaction for our viewers?
वो लोग चाहते हैं कि मैं पाकिस्तान ना जाऊं, मैं पाकिस्तान फिर जाऊंगा, फिर पैगाम मोहब्बत लेके जाऊंगा और डंके की चोट जाऊंगा, क्योंकि हमारा पैगाम इंसानियत का पैगाम है, महबूब इलाही की तालीमात वाला पैगाम है। ये इंशाअल्लाह जारी और सारी रहेगा और लोग उसके पैगामात से फैज़याब होंगे। अल्लाह।
Continuously saying that it is a message of peace that they went to Pakistan with and are absolutely not scared and will return. Taha, if I can come to you on this, on a closing remark, do you think this is the last that we've heard of this, or do you anticipate that this will recur when these clerics return to Pakistan, and this will be repeated when they return?
Well, I mean, I think he wants to send a message of bravery, but given the ordeal he would have gone through, I am not sure if they would come to Pakistan anytime soon. Also, at the same time, as far as if this is the last that we've heard of, I mean, in India at least it's still a story, but in Pakistan, the whole day I was following the coverage of local media here, and there's not a single word about the follow-up on when they landed there and how there are reports of them saying that they were never in Sindh. Some newspapers from India are suggesting that. Some news reports suggest that the son himself talks about the fact that he did not have a visa. They did not have a visa to go into Sindh, so why would they be there? There are reports about them being interrogated or detained. So all of that, this coverage was there was a complete, absolute media blackout in Pakistan. We saw that the earlier information that came out was from the Foreign Office saying that they have passed on the information to the Interior Ministry about these missing clerics. And then we saw this sort of planted story about them being traced in Interior Sindh without network coverage through sources. And then today there was complete silence. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, this chapter is sort of closed, and nobody's talking about it here. But whether or not they will come back, that is yet to be seen. But from what they've gone through, I think it'll be tough for them next time around too. And so we'll just see how it develops.
All right, Mr. Mukherjee, your closing remarks. Now, on the surface, as we've been discussing, it might appear as a case of 2 Indians going missing and then returning to the country. But with the respective governments being involved with these murky allegations of associations with the RAW and Indian agencies, there is more than meets the eye, and there seems to be a larger ploy at work here.
You may be right. It's, as I said, we are short of facts, really,
Yes.
about exactly what happened. And those who do know the facts on the Pakistani side are not going to tell us. And as I said, as far as these people who suffered the actual detention for whatever reason, not very forthcoming. But you have an extremely perceptive bureau chief whose analysis I broadly agree with.
Yes.
I think the fact that there has been absolutely no reporting in Pakistan, unlike on the Indian side, maybe is a signal that they've, whatever they plan to do, they've shut it down. So when you talked about this kind of thing happening in the future, well, maybe not specifically with these people, because
Sure.
I doubt if they will be traveling very soon to Pakistan after this experience. But of course it will happen. I mean, many things will happen. The way, given the sheer history of Pakistan and its one-point agenda of causing as much harm to India as possible, ranging from embarrassment to needling to infiltration and terrorism and so
Right.
on. Of course, these things will happen. But in this particular instance, at least without knowing all the facts, we can be somewhat relieved that there was no loss of life and nothing really nasty about it.
All right, let's leave it there for the moment. Taha Siddiqui and Mr. Mukherjee, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of India Prime. More questions and answers certainly, but hopefully over the next few days there will be some more facts that come our way and not just speculation. On that note, it's a wrap. Much more coming up on the other side of a very short break.